Hi, welcome to Coffee at the Crossroads. I'm Bill, and today I want to kind of do something different. I'm often sort of touring around and showing you the sights and sounds of where I live here in the UK, and that's one of the things I love to do, and one of the reasons we like being here. But I've received several questions from viewers saying, love to hear what life is like, and love to hear why you like being there. And I hope that comes across in the videos, but there's more to it than just walking around the town that I live in. So I thought I'd cover that today. Why do we love being here? Why do we live here? Basically, why have we chosen to live here? And so that's what we're going to cover. There's really one sort of general, phrase, one general reason that we like being here, but that needs to be broken down into its constituent parts, and I'm going to do that in the video. In general, when people say, "Oh, why did you move here from Canada? Canada's beautiful. Why did you move here?" In a simple sentence, we moved here for the quality of life. Quality of life, that's, I want to, that's the general sort of umbrella. But what does that mean? Quality of life means different things for different people. Depends what if you have an active lifestyle, or if you're a sports fan, or if you're an outdoors person, or you're a person who loves the theater and live performances and things like that. So, everybody has a different take on what a good quality of life is. But living here in the UK suits our quality of life, and what does that mean? And that's what I'm going to do. I want to sort of go through there's sort of 6 points that I want to cover that spell out that quality of life for us. And again, this is for us. Many of the viewers are going to go, "Oh, I wouldn't do that," or "I don't like that," or "That sounds bad," or whatever. But the reality is that, as I said, quality of life means different things to different people, and this is what suits our quality of life. And so those 6 things. First is the cost of living, and I know that probably comes as a shock to people because the UK is quite expensive, but relative to Canada, relative to where we were living in Canada, it's much cheaper here. And again, it's cheaper because of the things that we focus on, the things that we value. If we were, I don't know, going to live sporting events and going to, live theater, or I'm traveling up to London all the time or whatever, that would be prohibitively expensive. But that's not what we do. We enjoy cooking our own meals, and we enjoy travel, and we enjoy the history around us and all that stuff. And so again, back to that sort of quality of life. But the reality is that the cost of living here for the things that we focus on is cheaper. And a couple of, one of those things is the cost of groceries, the cost of food. To go and do our shop, it's not half what it was in Canada, but it's pretty close. I think, we were spending $1,200 or $1,400 per month, Canadian dollars per month. And now we spend about 900, the equivalent of about 900 Canadian dollars a month. So it's significantly cheaper. And what's needs to be added to that is that we eat better. In Canada, we were not eating a lot of meat. We were certainly not eating red meat because it's so expensive. We were not buying as much fresh fruits and veg. We were avoiding, particularly fresh fruit. When we were living in Vancouver, so expensive to buy fresh fruit. And here, fresh fruit and veg is very affordable. And so that's something that's important to us. And we're able to eat chicken and lamb and beef and pork and all those things. And if you're not a meat eater, maybe that doesn't matter to you, of course, right? But again, back to our quality of life. And because of, where England sits geographically, access to French cheese and Danish cheese and Dutch cheese and all of that kind of stuff, and great wines, Italian and French and Portuguese and Spanish wines. that are all very affordable. All of that stuff, it's so much more affordable than it is in Canada. And so again, those are the things that we enjoy. And so that really improves our quality of life. I've touched on this before, so I don't think it's going to come as any surprise, but I love travel. My wife and I love to travel. And that's another big reason that we love being here is that the proximity to Europe. We can just, hop on a plane and be in Paris in 2 hours, or be in Lisbon in 2 hours. We just went to Nice, to the south of France, and that was a 2.5 hour trip. And though prices have definitely gone up in the last few years since COVID, travel is much more expensive than it was, say, 5 years ago. It's still much, much more affordable than it would be from Canada. Obviously, it's a lifetime trip to travel from Canada to Italy, or from Canada to France or Portugal or Spain or somewhere like that. Whereas we can go for a weekend, and I actually did a weekend, a weekend in Nice that my wife and I just experienced. So that's a big one. But it's not just international travel. The reality is that because of this rich history here, and because we're not from here, there's so much to see and do here locally. We can drive a couple hours. We can be in Salisbury, or we can be in Bristol, or we can be in Canterbury, or we can go to Devon, or to Cornwall or something like that. So there's a lot of local, sort of inside the UK travel as well, which is something that we really enjoy. And something that I touch on just about in every video is the third thing is history. I'm a big sort of fan of history, and I love history all around us, and all that kind of stuff. And I touch on that in my videos. And, England is just steeped in history. The history of England goes back, thousands of years. There is, in fact, locally, there is a Neolithic flint mine that's goes back about 4,500 years. And of course, the Romans were here a couple thousand years ago, and there's evidence of Roman settlements here, and Roman ruins, and Hadrian's Wall, and all that stuff. So there's so much history here. Not to mention medieval history and all of the English history, So that's another reason that we love being here, just steeped in history, and we're surrounded by it all the time. And the fourth thing is, and I know you're going to freak out about this. I know people are going to raise their eyebrows, but the weather. Now, I know, and I've said before, you don't move to England for the weather, but in a way, we actually have moved to England for the weather. And that is because I personally, I've not been diagnosed with this, but I get a bit of a seasonal kind of depression when I'm in long drawn out winters and it's cold and gray and snowy and we're socked in. That gets to me. And so the weather here isn't always fantastic, and often it rains, and often it can be gray and gloomy. But the winters are much shorter and much less severe than they are in Canada. And so again, for us, and me specifically, I appreciate the weather here, and the winters being milder than they are in Canada. And of course, we always have that opportunity to, in a couple hours, we can fly to somewhere like Greece, or we can fly to somewhere like southern Spain or something like that. So we also have that out if the weather starts to get to us here. And then the fifth thing, and this is a small one, and it's partly history, and it's partly, I don't know, I guess it's partly history, but my wife and I just love the quaint little English towns. And whether all parts of England, there are these quaint little towns that are dotted across the country. Close by here, there's a little town called Shear, which is just, it's beautiful. It's about an hour away, and Arundel was voted one of the prettiest towns in all of the UK. And there's a place nearby called Lewis, and Chichester is close by, and there's all these fantastic places, Winchester, and all these great places that you can go. Petworth is another one. But you go and you can just drive there for an afternoon, go on a Saturday, and kind of wander around these quaint little towns, and I never get sick of that. And so that's one of the other reasons that we love being here. And it's not just history. It's not just culture. It's a kind of a vibe, and you know, it's just, there's this aspect to England that you don't quite find, you know, certainly you don't find in Canada. You know, another little point about those quaint little English towns is they often have a great little pub in them too. So, that's always a bonus. But yeah, and so that's number 5, is those, you know, this sort of quintessentially English, you know, small towns. And number 6, and this is going to blow people away. I know you're going to, I'm sure if you've gotten this far, people are going to be shouting at their computer or their screen. But there is an aspect and efficiency to English bureaucracy that we've really come to appreciate. And I know nobody likes bureaucracy. I know what you're going to say. I know that there's a whole bunch of people going, what? And you know what? We have done immigration, and we have done the visa thing, and we've done travel, and we've had to get our kids into school, and we've had to counsel taxes and all this stuff. And there's lots of English bureaucracy that makes you want to tear your hair out. If I had hair, I'd tear it out. But the reality is that there are aspects to English bureaucracy that are really, really efficient. And I'm going to outline a couple of those. One is income tax. Now, you can argue about how much income tax you pay, and I'm sure there's lots of Brits going, what? No, you're crazy. But there is an efficiency in, if you work in what they call PAYE, pay as you earn, you go to work and you get paid, and your taxes get filed automatically, and at the end of the year, it's just done. There's no runaround. There's no, oh, you have to apply for these tax credits, and you've got to do this, and you've got to submit this, and you didn't file that, and you've got to have your pay slips for this and that. It's all done automatically, and that's, I know that tax season in Canada was always super stressful for me. I would have to file my wife's taxes. I would have to file my own taxes. And when my kids got working, I'd have to file their taxes. And that was always super stressful. And I don't have any of that stress. And so it's a small one, but it's part of the reason that it's one of the things we've really come to appreciate. When we went back to Canada briefly, we had to do taxes, and I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot how frustrating this is. So that's one thing. The other part of English bureaucracy, and it's not really bureaucracy, but it falls into it, is that that sales tax and all that stuff, VAT and all that stuff, is included in the price. So when you walk into a store and it says this item costs £10, you walk up and you give them £10 and it's over. That's it. You walk out, everybody's happy. I had forgotten how frustrating it was when we were back in Canada last summer. And you go in and it's like, oh, that says it's $10 Canadian. And you walk up and they say, well, that'll be $11.50. And you're like, why does it say $10 on it then? Oh, I forgot. There's HST and GST and Lord knows what other taxes. And that's a small thing. It's not why we live here, but it's one of the things we've come to appreciate about it, is when you go up and you've got 20 quid, 20 pounds, and you go, that's 10 and that's 5 and that's 5. I can afford those things because 10 plus 5 plus 5 equals 20. In Canada, if you've got 10 plus 5 plus 5, that's 20, but you're going to get up there and it's going to be 23 or 24 or 22.80 or whatever it is, depending on which province it is. That's the other thing, is that each province has a different tax rules. So it's a small one. I know it's a small one, but it is one of the things that we've really come to appreciate, or more accurately, we appreciated it when we went back to Canada. We were like, oh my goodness, I forgot how frustrating this is. And so yeah, that's one of them. So yeah, so that's it. It really comes down to our quality of life and what we value in life, and that is, eating good food and eating nice fruits and veg, and drinking good wine and nice cheese and things like that, and being able to travel and being surrounded by history and being surrounded by this wonderful countryside. England's such a green country. It's amazing. And surprising as it may be, the weather, even though it rains a lot, that's why it's green, and those quaint, fantastic little English towns that are dotted around the country. And surprising as it may be, English bureaucracy. I know, that's insane, isn't it? Yeah, it seems like it's crazy, but when you go somewhere else and you've experienced it here, and then you go somewhere else, you go, oh my goodness, it's really quite good there. You know what I mean? And that's one thing when we went back to Canada, we came to appreciate English bureaucracy, as hard as that is to believe. So that's it. That's, if you got this far, thank you for watching, and I'd love to hear your comments, and I'm sure that there's going to be people in North America that are like, no, you're insane, that's stupid, or their eyes are open and going, oh my goodness, I didn't know it was that way. And I know that my UK viewers are going to be shouting at the screen going, you're a moron, why would you think that? But yeah, I think the people that grew up with English bureaucracy and grow up with the history around and grow up with all that stuff, they take it for granted, or all they see is the bad in it. Whereas someone who's lived in different countries and comes from a different country, you see that there's lots of good stuff here too. So I'm going to leave it there. Please, love to hear your comment. Let me know what you think. If you disagree, which I'm sure you will, I'd love to hear about it. If you agree, I'd love to hear that too. And if you like this video, please give me the thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if this is your first time here, thanks for coming, and please subscribe. I'm doing more of these videos, and I'm trying to build my subscriber base, and I'd love to get feedback to know what people want to see and hear. Yeah, and so I'm going to leave it there. And thank you for watching. This is Coffee at the Crossroads, and I'm Bill. Cheers.